Buffalo Bills Combine coverage is presented by Napa Auto Parts. Visit your local Napa Auto Parts store for Napa know-how and all your car care needs.
Give a sense of the quarterbacks and a lot of people saying that this just isn't a very deep quarterback class. What's your assessment of it?
I think you have the top two that are very worthy of those two top picks, and then there is a drop-off. But again, we're going to do our due diligence on these guys, and if we feel their value pick wherever we pick, then we'll pull the trigger.
I think with you've only got the 6 picks. Mm-hmm. You've got a young guy in EJ. We know you're going to bring a veteran guy. Is it prudent to use a pick on a quarterback who may not help you really at all this year for sure, and maybe not in the future?
If we think it's a value, yes, because in the future, you never know. There's injuries, and a vet, he may only be here a year or two, and then like what happened this year with Kyle Orton, and decide to hang it up. So you always want to be prepared, and you always want to have depth, because you never know what's going to happen, not only contractually, but injury-wise.
How did the Josh McCown visit, if you could talk about that, what attracted you to him, and where do things stand?
Well, he's had a history with a couple guys on our staff. Obviously with Aaron Cromer, they were together. He was with Coach Lee, our quarterback's coach, and also Greg Roman. He was at camp with him in San Francisco. So they have a history with this guy. He was the first quarterback out there as a free agent, so we want to, again, like I've said, we're going to do our due diligence on everybody. Brought him in, had a great time talking to him. He wants to go and look at other options and sit back and find out with his representation which one is the best position and spot for him. And if it's us and we determine it's the same feeling for us, then we'll pull the trigger.
Doug, are you preparing to move on without C.J. Spiller?
I hope not. I mean, we're Jim Ovendorf, Russ Brand, and Kevin Meegank are meeting with his representation right here in the Combine. We hope that we can close the gap and get the deal done. But if it's not, we're going to have to, but we hope that we don't have to.
This is a significant gap.
It's going to be some work have to be done, but I have confidence that we'll each come to the table with an open mind and try to get a deal done that's great for both sides.
Hey Doug, if that doesn't happen and he ends up going free, is running back in the second round? I mean, there's a lot of talk about you don't want to pick running backs too high anymore. Is running back going to be a consideration given Fred's age and the uncertainty with, Bryce? You don't really know what you have in him yet.
Absolutely. I mean, it could be a consideration as a free agent if we lose CJ or in the draft. The one thing, though, that we're going to try to set up the roster through free agency is to have most of our so-called needs filled. So when we look at that draft board, we can go best player available. And then that decreases your chances of picking the wrong player.
Where do you stand with Bryce? It was kind of a lost season for him in the saying. He got a little playing time when he had some injuries there, but then when everybody was healthy, he wasn't active, and you gave up a 4th-round pick for him. Where do you stand with him?
Right now, everybody on this roster has a clean slate with this new coaching staff. So we're excited to see him come in with a clean slate just like everybody else and perform like we think he should.
How does the signing of Richie Incognito impact the need at guard?
I think it lessens it a little bit because you got a former Pro Bowl guard, and everybody knows Rex Ryan is a run, ground and pound type of offense along with Greg Roman. So what we have to get better up front. There's no mistake about it. And we think that's a piece that can help us get better up front.
Would you still look at it in the draft?
Yes. Again, we will look at anything. And my philosophy, our philosophy in building this team is to not only have great starters, but great backups. So that depth, that's what we're looking for because injuries are part of the game. And if someone goes down, we want that backup to go in, and our expectation doesn't dip.
Doug, where are you with Jerry Hughes and Denard Searcy at this point?
Right now, Jerry Hughes, I know Jim Ovendorf, he's been calling me, met with his representation, talked to him last night, and I think they were meeting again today, so I'll have an update on that later. And Searcy, it's going to be a little challenging with Searcy just because we have paid Aaron Williams, and there's some money tied up in that position, and Searcy may probably garner starter money at safety. That's going to be a little more challenging trying to get that done just because of the cap space dedicated to that one position.
Is the tag possible on Hughes, or are you trying to avoid that?
We're trying to avoid that because we like to get him long-term for sure and keep everybody on the same page like they felt like, hey, I got a good deal. And we say, as the Buffalo Bills, we got a good deal.
Doug, you made a move this week to release Keith Rivers. That freed up a little bit of cap space for you. Mario's got a big cap number. Is restructuring his deal a consideration? Has that been brought up to maybe free up a little bit more cap space?
As of now, we haven't broached that subject. It's something in our back pocket, but I think with the cap space we have and talking to Jim Ovendorf and Russ and Kevin, that we should be able to do what we want to do in free agency. But again, that's in the back pocket, and if we need it, hopefully, we'll come to the table and address it at that time.
When you mentioned update on Hughes, do you mean like you could get something even definitive like this afternoon on his status, or just progress, or what do we?
I don't know. I know they've been in constant communication. We've sent a proposal. They've sent a counter proposal. They talked last night, and I think they're going to talk again today. So I hope so. That would be great.
Doug, how would you categorize this running back class coming out this year?
Deep. It's deep, and it's one of those classes that we're excited about. And I think in the draft altogether, there's some value between rounds 2 through 5 that you're going to get some guys that will make an impact in this league. So we're excited about that.
In a sense, with such a deep class, it would almost make more sense to wait because there's so many different talents.
People may say that, but I'm always a firm believer. If you want that guy and that's your guy, get him. Because especially in the draft, you don't know if that guy's going to fall to you. If you like him and you're committed to that guy, you take him in the second. If you don't take him in the second, hypothetically, he might not get to you in the third. And then you're saying, oh, I should have. I don't want him to say, oh, I should have.
Are there certain traits you look for in a running back?
I think in any player, as a Buffalo Bill, the first trait and the most important trait is, does he love football? That's the most important thing, I think. The physical skills, we can always determine that by looking at the film and here at the combine. But that stuff inside, that intestinal fortitude, that's the trait we look for in all Buffalo Bill players.
Does your assessment of how you're going about the process here and through your whole personnel evaluation changed with Rex Ryan's arrival and just the two of you being on obviously the same page? How's it influenced how you're doing your
the same. He was on board, and we have the coaches have input not only on the college guys but the free agents that we'll probably be looking at, and it's been a seamless transition. Those guys are on board and they do great work, and they're excited.
At safety, how do you feel about Duke Williams and Jonathan Meeks in the event that Denoris does move on?
And Rambo, and if those guys, if he does move on, we think we got 3 guys that will compete, and one of those guys is going to come out of there as the starter, but we'll have 2 excellent backups.
Hey Doug, there's a lot of talk about in the media and the fan base about, Bradford might be available to trade, Cutler, guys like this who aren't free agents. Is that really pie in the sky thinking? Trying to trade for a guy like that with those cap numbers?
I look at it this way. I won't talk about people specifically because they're under contract to other teams. I look at it this way. That's media doing their jobs. But until someone contacts me from that team or their representatives when they become free or when they're available to talk about a trade, then I'll put some thought into that.
Doug, is Josh McCown in your mind a viable starting option in the NFL?
He can come in and compete with EJ and whoever else we bring in to see who will be the starter.
Every year we talk about tight end as a position that maybe you might want to upgrade on the roster. Do you see anybody in this draft that potentially could come in and be one of those mismatch type tight ends that every team is looking for?
There's a few, and we interviewed a couple last night, and I think that this is a pretty good. It's a deeper tight end class than it was last year, so we're excited about that.
Does your focus or game plan at this event change, knowing you don't have a first-round pick? Maybe you focus on more of those guys projected lower?
Again, like I said before, you can't do that, because what if someone offers me a first-round pick for one of our assets? Then you're behind the 8 ball saying, we didn't look at these guys. So we approach this draft like we have a first-round pick, and we're going to do our due diligence on every prospect.
Where does Brandon Spike stand?
It's going to be interesting. I mean, I just talked to him today, and the new staff sees a different role than maybe he does. So we're going to have. I told him, hey, go out there and see if you can get a team that wants to sees you the way you see yourself. If not, come back to us, and then we can talk.
At this event with a different coaching staff, how is it different for you, or is it different for you, the way you handle things and the way Rex likes things?
We talked about this in the interview process, and since Rex has been on board, and it's the same the way we've done it since I've been here, and he likes it. He likes it because he's involved.
With Rex, he's a guy that's always been pretty involved in the draft process. If you're sitting there, you like player A, Rex likes player B, who becomes a Buffalo Bill?
Then we talk it out. And then we say which is going to be the best player for the Buffalo Bills. And it's not my draft choice. It's not Rex's draft choice. It's a Buffalo Bills draft choice.
Doug, did you speak to the kid from Hobart, the offensive lineman, Marpet?
We have him scheduled to come in this week.
Yes. Doug,
Any update on Marcus season? Where you guys stand?
We'd like to get him back. And that's another thing that J.O. is going to work on this week, but he's a hell of a special teams player, and we're excited, and we hopefully can get him back.
Doug, you start over at fullback now?
Excuse me?
Would you start over at fullback now? Presumably Greg and Rex want one?
Yes, we're going to have to go start over fullback, and then to go compound on what you were talking about tight end. Greg Roman's a big tight end guy, so he likes to use 3 to 4 tight ends, so we're going to have to add some tight ends as well.
Any of the running backs on the roster, could they fill a fullback role?
No, I don't think. I know Anthony Dixon did it out of necessity when he was in San Francisco, but we want Anthony to concentrate on running.
Doug, if you haven't already, when would you like to initiate talks for extension with Marcel?
After we get done with all the unrestricted and everything we do this off season, then we start broaching that subject.
Would you consider it a high priority?
Yes. Yes.